My wife's jealousy turned every innocent moment into an accusation, but when she finally cheated, I ended it by taking everything and walking free. I'm a 30-year-old man, and I met my wife, a 28-year-old woman, when I was in college. My major was in business economics, while hers was in English. We met at a mutual friend's house, hit it off pretty well, and dated for a couple of years. Sometime after we graduated, I proposed to her, and she said yes right away. That's the summarized version of our courtship, as I don't think there's anything particularly noteworthy to add. We've been married for 4 years now. Looking back on those early days, I often wonder how things could have gone so wrong. We were young, full of dreams, and everything felt effortless. I remember our first date vividly now, even though I glossed over it before. It was at a small cafe near campus where we talked for hours about our favorite books. She loved classic literature, like Jane Austen, while I was more into economic theories and biographies of successful entrepreneurs. There was this spark, this genuine connection that made me think, this is it. This is the person I want to build a life with. Little did I know that the foundation we were laying would crumble under the weight of insecurity and mistrust. It's heartbreaking to reflect on how pure those moments were, untainted by the jealousy that would later consume us. I feel a pang of nostalgia mixed with regret every time I think about it, wishing I could go back and warn my younger self about the red flags I might have missed. I started to notice changes in my wife, let's call her Claudia, about a year into our marriage. It all began after she walked in on me and a female colleague at a bar. I know it sounds bad, but it was an entirely innocuous situation. A group of coworkers went out for drinks after work, which isn't unusual. As people left one by one, it was eventually just me and my colleague at the bar. Claudia walked in with her friends and came to say hi. I greeted her normally because I didn't feel I was doing anything wrong. However, when Claudia got home after me, all hell broke loose. She threw her purse down, stomped toward me, pointed a finger in my face, and screamed about catching me cheating. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't let me get a word in. When she finally calmed down, after calling me every horrible name a person can, call a cheater, I showed her photos the group had taken earlier that night. I also pointed out that I didn't act strangely when she arrived with her friends because I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. After my explanation, she said, "Okay," seeming to understand. She stood there for a few seconds, as if she wanted to say something, then went to our room. That incident still irks me to this day because she never apologized. The lack of an apology gnaws at me even now. It wasn't just about the words, it was about acknowledging the hurt she caused. In that moment, I felt dismissed, like my feelings didn't matter. Over time, that small rift grew into a chasm. I replay that night in my mind, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. Anger at her for jumping to conclusions, and sadness for the trust that was shattered so early on. It's like a wound that never fully healed, always there, reminding me of how fragile relationships can be. Sharing this now, I realize how much I've bottled up these emotions, pretending they didn't affect me as deeply as they did. But they did. They eroded my confidence in our marriage bit by bit. That episode marked the point where Claudia became clingy and overly jealous. I noticed mood shifts if I so much as looked in a woman's direction or answered simple questions from a woman, even if she was just asking for directions. Interestingly, these rules didn't apply to women who were clearly not a threat. I believe a sensible amount of jealousy is healthy, as it reinforces boundaries, but it's easy to tell when it becomes excessive. In Claudia's case, it seemed to spiral after that bar incident, which didn't. Makes sense because she had no reason to be so wary of me around other women. Most of the time I could sense her mood sour after an interaction with a woman, but she only started arguments some of the time. These were never civil discussions. She always got emotional, and it drove me crazy. She'd cite the smallest things as reasons for suspicion. For instance, once she caught me talking to a female neighbor in our apartment building's hallway about basic politics. When Claudia saw us, she walked out, saw us, and went back inside. I knew I'd be in for it. At that moment, I thought about divorce because I couldn't keep living this way. It was highly draining. However, I loved her and felt we should try couples therapy before ending things. Therapy was a roller coaster of emotions for me. Walking into that first session, I felt hopeful yet vulnerable. I had to open up about my frustrations, about feeling constantly monitored and accused. It was cathartic to have a neutral third party validate that my experiences weren't just in my head. But when Claudia accused the therapist of siding with me, or worse, wanting to sleep with me, it was absurd and hurtful. I laughed, but inside, I was crumbling. How could someone I loved see threats everywhere? It made me question my own sanity. Switching to a male therapist helped, and for those months without incidents, I dared to dream of a better future. I felt relief washing over me, like we were finally on the right path. But deep down, a seed of doubt lingered, whispering that this peace might be temporary. Sharing these feelings now, I realize how exhausting it was to hold on to hope while bracing for the next storm. It's a lonely place to be, loving someone who's slowly pushing you away. That is, until the incident I'm writing about now. The last several months had been normal, like before the jealousy issues. However, things blew up when Rebecca, the same colleague from the bar years ago, came to our house to drop off documents. I wasn't home, as I was set to work from home the next week. I think Claudia recognized Rebecca from the bar incident. I don't know if it triggered a Winter Soldier moment, or if it was simply because a woman came to the house looking for me. But all hell broke loose when I got home. Claudia started howling the moment I walked in, throwing documents in my face. She demanded to know why Rebecca knew where I lived, claiming I must have brought her there before to sleep with her. The real answer was simple. I had told Rebecca where I lived when she offered to drop off the documents. It didn't help that Rebecca is a curvy woman, leading Claudia to rant about how I must prefer women with more curves than her, and that I'd been sleeping with them all over town. She even said she'd get tested for STDs because she was convinced I'd cheated multiple times. When she finished raving, I grabbed a few essentials and left. I had nothing to say to her in that state, knowing reason wouldn't reach her when she was so emotional. I heard her shout as I left, "Enjoy Rebecca's bed now." Leaving that night, a wave of emotions crashed over me, relief mixed with profound sadness. Relief from escaping the immediate toxicity, but sadness for the marriage that was slipping away. In the hotel room, alone with my thoughts, I cried for the first time in years. Not just for the end, but for all the lost potential, the dreams we shared that now felt like distant memories. I felt betrayed, not by any actual infidelity on my part, but by her inability to trust. It was as if my loyalty meant nothing. Reflecting on this, I realized how much I sacrificed my own peace for the sake of our relationship. The emotional toll was immense. I lost sleep, appetite, and even joy in everyday things. Writing this, I want to share that it's okay to feel broken in these moments. It's part of healing. This happened recently, and I've been staying in a hotel since. I'm set on divorcing her because I can't live decades of my life, best case scenario, with a woman who thinks I'm cheating with every other woman. The problem is I know therapy helped to some degree, and I'm torn about whether to try sessions again or give up. I'd love your opinions on this situation. Edit. I've seen comments saying I've already tried enough and should let go of the relationship. I sort of agree, as I fear that no matter how many therapy sessions we attend, one trigger could send her back to being overly jealous. I might not divorce her right away, but I've warmed to the idea more than ever. If this happens again, I'm done. This isn't a way to live, and I'm tired of being under such tight control. I don't want regrets, so I'll give her one more chance. But I'm not optimistic. I'm getting used to the idea of being single again. It is what it is. Reading those comments brought a flood of emotions, validation, mostly. For so long, I felt like I was overreacting or not trying hard enough. But hearing others echo my thoughts made me feel seen. Yet, there's this lingering guilt, like maybe I could have done more. It's a battle between head and heart. Extending this edit, I want to share how this uncertainty kept me up at night. I'd pace the hotel room, weighing pros and cons, feeling the weight of 4 years of marriage pressing down. The love was still there, faded but present, making the decision agonizing. In moments of clarity, I'd feel empowered, ready to reclaim my life. In others, doubt crept in, whispering, "What if?" It's raw, this emotional tug-of-war, and I hope, by sharing it, others in similar situations feel less alone. Oh, the joys of marriage, where I do turns into you did what? Faster than you can say, in sickness and in health. Sparks fly, dates happen, a proposal is made, and boom, wedding bells ring. Fast forward, and you're cast in a real-life drama where your wife is convinced you're the Casanova of coworkers. She catches you having an innocent drink with a female colleague, and suddenly you're accused of cheating. Claudia's new hobby? Policing your every interaction with women. Glance at a woman, and she's ready to launch World War III. You pack your essentials and flee to a hotel, contemplating divorce because living under constant suspicion isn't the dream life you signed up for. Life's too short for this. If Claudia can't trust you, maybe it's time to write the final chapter and start fresh. Screen future partners for jealousy tendencies on the first date. This satirical take hits close to home, stirring a bittersweet laugh in me. It's funny how life mimics bad rom-coms, but the pain is real. Extending this reflection, I think about all the joys we miss in marriage. The quiet evenings, shared laughs, building a home. Instead, mine was filled with tension, walking on eggshells. I feel a deep sorrow for what could have been, but also gratitude for the lessons. It's taught me about boundaries, self-respect, and the importance of mutual trust. Sharing these feelings, I hope it resonates with others navigating similar turmoil. Update: here's an update I wasn't expecting, and I'm beyond pissed off. As I mentioned, I was getting comfortable with divorce, but wanted to give Claudia one more chance. I didn't have to wait long for her to prove she'll never change, and she showed me in the most obvious way possible. At a friend's barbecue, I noticed her being unusually touchy with a guy we didn't know. I asked the host, my good friend, who he was. He said the guy was recently divorced and worked in construction. This was odd, because Claudia was never so touchy with anyone but me. This was about 2 weeks after the last incident I described. I kept an eye on her during the barbecue but didn't make a scene. When we got home, I confronted her. She wasn't apologetic and said, "Now you know how it feels." That left me speechless. It was her admitting she was intentionally making me jealous. It was a ridiculous comparison. She gets jealous when women speak to me, but I've never thrown myself at them. She even added, "Are you just jealous because he's a handsome guy? More fit than you?" I walked out, too angry to continue. I knew then I'd be contacting a divorce lawyer. That confrontation was a turning point, unleashing years of pent-up frustration. I felt betrayed on a whole new level, not just accused, but now the victim of actual infidelity born from her delusions. The anger was visceral, like a fire in my chest. But beneath it, there was hurt, a deep wound from someone I trusted turning the tables so hypocritically. In the days that followed as I stayed away, I processed these emotions through journaling, long walks, and talks with friends. It was therapeutic, helping me see that her actions were a reflection of her issues, not my failings. Extending this update, I want to delve into the emotional aftermath. The initial shock gave way to numbness, then waves of grief for the loss of our shared life. I mourned the good times, the vacations, the inside jokes, the comfort of companionship. Yet, intertwined was a growing sense of liberation, like shedding a heavy burden. It's complex, this mix of pain and hope, and sharing it helps me make sense of it all. I didn't return home for 3 days. If I wasn't sure before, Claudia sealed the decision the next day. My friend Bill, who hosted the barbecue, called me sounding serious and asked to meet. He told me the guy Claudia was talking to had hooked up with her the day after I left. The guy thought she was single because that's how she presented herself. I zoned out after that, my head spinning. Bill had told the guy Claudia was married, and he was shocked, saying he'd forget about her immediately. When I got home, I confronted Claudia. She was chatty, with an obvious attitude, saying, "Didn't expect to see you back already," with a smug grin. I told her, "Shut up. You slept with the guy from the barbecue. Don't deny it. You cheated on me, Claudia." She stood there, then whispered, "Now you know how it feels." I was so angry I threw a ceramic kitchen ornament at her feet. I'm not proud of it, but her comment was infuriating. I've never come close to cheating, so for her to call this retribution was insane. I cursed, screamed, and explained that she'd never caught me cheating, that her accusations were baseless, and that she was delusional for thinking I'd shown any signs of unfaithfulness. I told her she needed help. When I finished, she said nothing, just stood there. I asked if she had anything to say, but she just shook her head slightly. I told her to pack her things and leave. She stood for a bit, then packed a suitcase and left. I haven't seen her since. That final confrontation was cathartic, but it left me emotionally drained. Screaming out everything I'd held in felt like releasing a pressure valve, yet the silence from her was deafening. It confirmed what I suspected. She knew she was wrong but couldn't admit it. In the quiet after she left, I sat on the floor, tears streaming, feeling a profound emptiness. But as days passed, that emptiness filled with self-compassion. I started therapy for myself, not couples, to unpack the trauma. It's been eye-opening, helping me recognize patterns from my past that might have kept me in the relationship longer. Sharing this vulnerability, I feel empowered. It's a step toward healing. To extend this narrative, let's talk about the immediate practicalities. Cleaning the house of her remnants was symbolic. Donating clothes, rearranging furniture. Each act was a small victory, reclaiming my space and sanity. Friends rallied around me, offering support that warmed my heart amidst the cold betrayal. I don't need help deciding what to do next. I've contacted a divorce lawyer, and I want to make sure I come out on top in the split. I'm exhausted and annoyed that it came to this after putting up with so much over the years. I'll update you once the divorce is finalized. The exhaustion is bone deep, a culmination of emotional labor. Annoyance gives way to resolve, though. I'm channeling that energy into self-improvement, gym sessions, new Hobbies like reading those English classics she loved, ironically. It's bittersweet, but growth often is. So, you were getting comfortable with divorce, thinking you'd give her one last chance. At a friend's barbecue, you saw her getting touchy with a random guy, a recently divorced construction worker. Classic Claudia. You let loose everything you'd bottled up, every baseless accusation, every jealous tirade. Her response? Silence and a slight headshake. You told her to pack her things and leave, and she did. Now you're calling the divorce lawyer, done with therapy and second chances. This time you're making sure the divorce stings. A long overdue reality check. Update 2. I'm thrilled to write this update, feeling like a massive weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel great. Some time ago, I posted about my extremely jealous wife, who always assumed I was cheating or interested in other women. In quick succession, she intentionally made me jealous and slept with someone, which was the final straw. I contacted a divorce lawyer immediately. The papers were served at her workplace, a publishing company, providing some gossip for her colleagues. She sent me an angry text that evening, accusing me of embarrassing her and being vindictive. During the divorce proceedings, I messed up because I had no evidence of her cheating. No recording of my conversation with Bill or the affair partner's confession. I tried to see if Bill could get the guy to admit it, but it wasn't practical. However, I convinced the court by discussing her jealousy, our couples therapy, and recounting the entire story honestly. Claudia tried to spin the story in her favor, but it was easy to see through. In the end, I got a favorable outcome. I kept the house, which was fair since I lived there before she moved in. There was no alimony, as our income difference wasn't substantial, and the judge didn't want to reward her behavior. We had no kids, which simplified things. I let her take several pieces of furniture and appliances because I didn't want reminders of her in the house. I'm free of her now, and while it hurts to have spent years being accused of cheating only to be cheated on, I'm glad to know it'll never happen again. The freedom is exhilarating, like breathing fresh air after being suffocated. But the hurt lingers, a dull ache for the time invested. To extend this, let's explore life post-divorce. Months later, I've started dating casually, cautious but optimistic. I've joined support groups, where sharing stories has been healing. Emotions fluctuate, some days triumphant, others reflective. I've learned to value trust above all, and forgive myself for staying too long. It's a journey, one I'm grateful for. Claudia got served at her publishing company. Sweet irony. Her angry text about being embarrassed was the cherry on top. You kept the house, avoided alimony, and let her take the furniture to avoid ghostly reminders of her paranoia. You've emerged from this wreckage bruised but not beaten, ready to enjoy a life free of Claudia's jealousy-fueled drama. Here's to never hearing another paranoid rant about imagined affairs, and to a future haunted only by happy memories. Cheers. New reflection segment. Now that the dust has settled, I want to share more deeply about the emotional roller coaster this has been. Divorce isn't just a legal process, it's an emotional upheaval that reshapes your entire world. In the quiet evenings alone in the house I fought to keep, I often sit with a cup of coffee, staring at the walls that once echoed with arguments. There's a profound sense of loss, not just for Claudia but for the version of myself who believed in forever. I feel grief for the dreams we shared, the house we planned to fill. With kids, the vacations we talked about, the growing old together. It's like mourning a death, and some days the waves of sadness hit hard, leaving me breathless. But intertwined with that grief is anger, a righteous fury at the years wasted under suspicion. How many nights did I lie awake, replaying innocent conversations, wondering if they'd spark another fight? The constant vigilance eroded my self-esteem. I started doubting my own actions, second-guessing every interaction. Sharing this, I realize how isolating it was. No one truly understands unless they've lived it. Friends tried to help, but their advice often felt superficial. Therapy has been my lifeline, helping me unpack the trauma and rebuild. I've learned that jealousy like hers often stems from deeper insecurities. Perhaps from her past, but that doesn't excuse the pain inflicted. On brighter days, I feel empowered, like a phoenix rising. I've rediscovered hobbies, hiking trails I neglected, reading books. Without interruption, even cooking elaborate meals just for me. It's liberating to make decisions without fear of misinterpretation. Dating again has been tentative. I screen for red flags early, asking about trust and past relationships. It's scary, but exciting, a chance to find genuine connection. Looking ahead, I'm optimistic. This experience has made me stronger, more empathetic. I hope Claudia finds help, for her sake. As for me, I'm embracing single life, focusing on career growth and business economics. Perhaps starting a side hustle. The emotional scars fade slowly, but they're reminders of resilience. If you're reading this and relating, know it's okay to choose yourself. Healing takes time, but it's worth it. To further extend this story, let's imagine what life looks like a year later. I've moved on, but memories surface unexpectedly. A song on the radio reminds me of our wedding dance, bringing a smile then a tear. I've made new friends through a divorce support group, where we share laughs over similar tales. One guy's story mirrored mine so closely it was eerie. Professionally, I've thrived. The mental clarity post-divorce led to a promotion. Emotionally, I've grown, learning to communicate boundaries clearly, valuing open dialogue. I've even written a journal, chronicling the journey from bliss to breakdown to breakthrough. Entries detail the small victories. First solo trip, where I hiked mountains feeling alive. Cooking classes. Meeting people without paranoia, even adopting a dog, whose unconditional love heals old wounds. The pup, Max, greets me with wags, a stark contrast to past tensions. Reflecting on lessons, trust is foundational, jealousy unchecked poisons everything. I forgive Claudia, not for her, but for my peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it's releasing the hold on my heart. Now I approach relationships with wisdom, seeking partners who build up, not tear down. In quiet moments I feel gratitude, for the pain that shaped me, the strength I discovered, the future unfolding. Life's not perfect, but it's mine, free from shadows of doubt. If this resonates, reach out. Sharing connects us in humanity's tapestry. I'm done. Completely done with Claudia, her lies, her constant accusations that cut deeper than I can describe. Sitting in this empty house, the silence is heavy, but I'd take it over her yelling any day. 4 years of my life, 4 whole years, gone, turned to nothing because she couldn't trust me. I'm angry, not just at her, but at myself for staying in this mess so long. I gave her everything. Love, patience, more chances than she deserved, and she threw it all away. Thinking about her with that guy at the barbecue makes my stomach turn. It's not just betrayal, it's repulsive. She created this story in her head that I was cheating, then went and did it herself. It's pathetic. And I hate that I ever cared for someone so broken. I hate that I let her make me feel like the bad guy, like talking to a woman was some kind of crime. Every sleepless night, every time I doubted myself, every moment I spent proving I wasn't what she thought, I'm furious for it all. When she whispered, "Now you know how it feels." After admitting she was with that guy, I was livid. Throwing that ceramic piece at her feet? Not my best moment, but it felt like the only way to let out the pain. Her silence after I poured out years of frustration was worse than her screaming. She knew she'd ruined everything, but didn't have the courage to admit it. I stood there, yelling everything I'd held in, and she just stared, blank, like I meant nothing. That hurt more than her accusations ever could. It's like I was fighting for a marriage that only existed in my mind, a dream I was too naive to let go of. I'm so angry for believing in her, for thinking love could fix her paranoia. I feel like I let myself down by staying, by hoping she'd change. It's raw, it's ugly, and it stings to know I let it go on for so long. But there's another side breaking through. Relief, like I've been trapped underwater and can finally breathe. I'm free from her shadow, her distrust, her need to control my every move. I'm not sad anymore, just angry and ready to move forward. She can keep her chaos. I'm done being her target. I'm building a life that's mine, and it's going to be good. I've got scars from this, deep ones, but they're proof I made it through her nonsense. I'm not the guy who walked into this marriage, hopeful and blind. I'm stronger, wiser, and I'm not looking back. This whole ordeal taught me trust is everything. I gave her my heart and she crushed it, thinking I was the one breaking hers. That's over now. I'm hitting the gym, reading books she'd never touch, cooking meals just for me. I got a dog, Max, who doesn't care if I chat with a neighbor. Dating again? Yes, but I'm cautious, watching for any hint of jealousy. Trust is my non-negotiable now. No one gets in who makes me prove my loyalty every day. I forgive her, not because she deserves it, but because I need to let go of the weight. She's the past, and I'm running toward a future that's all mine. I'm not haunted by her anymore, just driven to make my life incredible. Claudia's gone, and I'm never going back to that nightmare.